No one can tell you you're going to do A, B, C, and it's going to work this way. And that's why it's so important not to fall for traps of courses, because 1, 2, 3 ABC plan may not be the right fit for you. So your job today is take all of the information I'm going to share with you and apply it to your situation. Welcome back to the channel where we empower you to master your money and build a life of financial freedom. If you're new here, I'm Lise, your guide on this journey to financial literacy and wealth building. Today, we're diving deep into the secrets of achieving that elusive 800 credit score. What is a credit score? A credit score is a 3-digit number. Lenders use this score to determine how likely you are to repay your debt. So your credit score is attached to your credibility. It ranges from the number 300 to the number 850. And an 800 score is considered excellent. It can pretty much open the doors to having the best interest rate, the top tier credit cards, and even job opportunities. Yes, some jobs, some career paths do check your credit, your credibility. So having a lower credit score can make it pretty difficult to navigate life. And it can also cost you quite a bit of extra money in interest and just some bad deals. A low credit score can increase your interest rates for credit cards and loans, and you may also be required to put down larger deposits when renting a home or even turning on services like electrical. However, a high credit score, it gives you more options for where you can live and the loans you can get. Plus, it can save you money in the long run, which is a win for most of us, right? That's the basics of credit, credibility, and the 3-digit number that ranges from 300 to 850 and what it could mean for you and how it impacts your entire life. Now we'll talk a little bit about factors affecting your credit score. The first step in improving your score is to be aware of what's on your credit history. There are 3 major credit bureaus: Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. And each has its own credit report and score based on your credit history. That means that everyone actually has multiple credit scores. To hit the 800 mark, you need to understand the factors that influence your credit score. So what are those factors? There are 5 main components of what makes up your credit score. The first is your payment history. This is the most significant factor. Always pay your bills on time. A history of overdue and missed payments may signal that you're a bigger risk to creditors, and a missed payment weighs as much as 35% of your score. Next up is your utilization. You keep your credit card balances low, preferably under 30% of your credit limit. Many people say 40%, but that's really pushing it. Under 30% is best, and this weighs out 30% of your score. Next is the length of your credit history. The longer your credit history, the better. I once made a mistake many moons ago in my young 20s where I cut up all my credit cards, Dave Ramsey style, and I was debt-free and I was so proud of myself, and I had no idea that I had self-sabotaged myself. And I had cut my oldest age of accounts 15% by cutting that up and no longer using it and saying goodbye, and I closed the account. So keep in mind, creditors like to see a proven record of borrowing. They want to see you utilizing and repaying that credit over time, and the longer the better. So if you're new to credit and borrowing, there isn't a lot of data to go on, right? Hey, we just met you. We're not really sure if you're actually good for this. Maybe you just had a good run, right? But if you've been doing it for so many years, they can see, oh, this person, they're an expert. They've had credit cards since they were 18. Look at that. No, it's never too late. Don't mistake it. My credit's at 800 and I cut up my credit cards midway through the process. So it's never ever too late. But right now, age of accounts makes up 15% of your score. So that could possibly take me to an 850 once my accounts age well. Then there's new credit. Avoid opening up too many new accounts in a short period. When you're shopping for credit cards, look for soft inquiries or soft pulls. Soft pulls, not hard inquiries. A hard inquiry will affect your credit. And multiple hard inquiries on your credit may look like you're overextending yourself financially and you look really desperate. This is almost like swiping right on every single guy on Tinder, and we don't want to do that. We don't want to look desperate, even though I think no one can see your swipes. But you get my drift. When you're applying for a credit card, generally speaking, a lot of underwriting guidelines are pretty similar. Some creditors are more flexible than others. Some creditors have very stringent requirements and they want you to have more credit history or a specific credit score or maybe a certain amount of inquiries. And because of that, you have to be really careful with your inquiries. And just because you're shopping around, you start to look at soft pulls that don't impact your credit instead of trying tons and tons of different times to get that credit card. Because the more times you try, the lower your score will go. Next up is a credit mix. You want to have a diverse mix of credit types, like a credit card, a mortgage, an auto loan, and these can boost your score. Lenders, they want to make sure you can handle both revolving and installment credit. They don't want to see that you have had one credit card your whole life. It doesn't tell them a story. It doesn't tell them anything about who you are. Imagine having your singular Capital One, usually their easiest barrier to entry, that's why I mentioned that. Singular Capital One, $500 in your pocket. You've had this one card that you've used for your whole life, and then you go to the bank and you say, I'd like to get an American Express. And they're like, great, let's take a look at your file. And they're like, all right. John Doe, Jane Doe. Capital One, $500. Where's the rest of it? What do you mean you want an American Express? American Express has no limits. We don't really have anything to go by here. And there you go, you get denied. And you're wondering, well, what happened? I have great credit. And that is why, because creditors want to see that you are a responsible credit user and they want to see that you have a mix of accounts. Now, sometimes you may find some errors on your report that you're going to need to correct through a dispute process. If you find an error, you'll have to file a separate dispute with each credit bureau since they're run separately. Think of it as a mom and pop situation, except you have three parents, right? You've got the Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. Those are your three parents. And whenever there's a mistake or you've got to ask for something, you've got to ask them individually. So if there's multiple errors on your credit reports, you'll need to dispute each of those individually. And if you start to feel overwhelmed, let's say you pull your credit today and that there's some mistakes and you're like, how do I even begin? You may want to consider working with a credit repair company to make things a little easier for yourself. But I do want to advise that as much as my knowledge takes me, I do believe that they're not supposed to charge you for that. So be wary of looking for assistance because many credit repair gurus will charge you on a consulting or advising status when in reality, helping you with your credit should be free. So if you have derogatory marks, they can have a pretty big impact on your score. So removing errors can be one of the fastest ways to build your credit score. And there are a lot of free tools to do. I will link one below. I used it myself, I vetted it myself. It showed me exactly what I needed to see and there was no charge for it. Now, full disclosure, you do have to pull your reports and you do have to pay to pull your reports. So that's pretty common. Don't fret, but this is only if you want to do a dispute. So if you want to do a dispute, you'll know that you'll have to put in the work or hire someone to do, or find someone that has ethics and will do it for you at no charge. But outside of that, you are able to pull your credit report for free. So now we'll dive into strategies to improve your credit score. Now that we know what affects your credit score, let's talk about actionable strategies to reach that 800. Checking your credit reports from each of the three main credit reporting agencies is really easy. Under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, you have the right to obtain a free copy of all three credit reports once a year. The government mandates that you can receive this one free credit report each year and you can easily access it at annualcreditreport.com. So go ahead, pull your report with me. It does not have an effect on your personal credit as a hard inquiry. Whenever you check your own credit, it is a soft pull, and that's what we're looking for. What's your strategy? Your first strategy is pay on time every time, even if it is the minimum payment. If you're thinking, oh, my lease, how can I possibly pay on time? Minimum payments, $25, $30, set up automatic payments or reminders to ensure that you never miss a due date. So this is super important. Don't try and remember on your own, even at the minimum payment time. I pay my credit cards in full every payday, but my auto payment is set for the minimum payment for every card, no matter what. Because in case something happens or I forget or I lose track of time, the card paid itself. I have never in my life had a late or missed payments, because if you do, those can stay on your credit report for 7 years. So these derogatory marks lower your credit score and they make you appear like a huge risk when in reality you just lost track of time. So just make sure that you set up your auto pay or get on Google Calendar and set up some alerts and make sure that you have a consistent strategy to pay that bill. The credit reporting agencies, they don't remove these items. Now, let me say that again. The credit reporting agencies, they don't remove them for you. It's too late. They're not going to do that. Contacting your creditor about paying off your debt is a really great way to raise your credit score fast, okay? The creditor will work with you. The person that you forgot to pay will work with you. The credit bureau will not. So make sure that they agree to remove the negative hit on your credit report if you agree to repay it in full. And you need to get that in writing. You don't know if they had a bad day. You don't know if they're getting paid minimum wage and they hate their job. You don't even know if it's their first day at work. So what I'm trying to say is that you need to make sure that you are in charge. You are the boss. When you are calling to inquire about things, do not let things get out of hand. And what I mean by that is that people will just say whatever they need to say to get you off the phone. They will. They will tell you, yes, we're reporting. Oh, yes, we'll do that right away. Yes, that'll be fine. Or no, we don't do that. Nope, that doesn't happen here. Nope, we've never heard of that. Call again. Try again. Call again. Try again. Absolutely not. There's ways to do things. The rules are not real. So if there's an agreement that's made where the creditor tells you that they will remove it off your inquiry if you repay either in full or in installments or whatever you've agreed to repay, get it in writing. So think about it this way. If you call Jane Doe or John Doe and you say, hey, I'm thinking about paying this off. Can you guys remove the inquiry off my credit? And they say, oh yeah, that's fine, it's no problem. And you say, okay, great, here's my card number. And then you call them to pay it. And then you hang up and you're like, great, everything's gonna be perfect. This person I just talked to for 5 minutes has no idea who I am, is totally gonna take care of this. And that is not the case. This does not happen automatically. So what's important is they had to go through a process to tell mom and pop that you were late. Now they have to go through a process to tell them that you paid up. These things don't happen magically. You have to have that conversation and you have to have a formal agreement in writing because you were past due and you were late. That agreement states that you no longer owe anything. And that's why it's so important to have something concrete to back you up if something happens. And you check your credit report in 6 months and say, why is that still there? I have a paper now. And now I can tell mom and pop that they told me they were gonna fix it. And here's my paper. So you send them a copy and you say, you guys gotta take it out. And that's how you do it. So after you make an agreement with the collections company, you request a pay for delete letter. A pay for delete letter is an agreement in writing stating that the creditor will have the derogatory information removed from your report. Now you lower your credit utilization. If possible, you keep it below 10%, and this would be giving you maximum impact. So if you carry a large amount of debt compared to your available credit, your score can suffer. In fact, credit utilization accounts for 30% of your credit score. So if your total credit card available credit is $10,000 and you're currently using $8,000 of it, paying down the balance can increase your score. Remember, your score is a moving dynamic. I use up less money, my score goes up. They want to see that you're rich, all right? So you want to keep your utilization rate under 30% if that's possible. So out of a $10,000 credit line or credit card, That's $3,000 in debt, okay? So out of 10, that's 3. Now, don't close old accounts. Don't follow in my footsteps. The length of your credit history matters, and keep your old accounts open even if you don't use them often. Maybe you just use them once a year so they don't close on you. Maybe put something really small on there and set it for minimum payment, like a phone bill or your electric company. Something really simple just to keep it active. And here's a hack. Don't have old accounts. You can also become an authorized user for a credit card account if you have a friend or family member with really good credit history. So even if you don't use that credit card, your credit reports will reflect the person's credit history of on-time payment. I'll share with you guys a secret. I have done this for almost every boyfriend I have ever dated. True story. Once one called me like 15 years later saying, I'm trying to buy a house and there's this credit card on my thing and I'm pretty sure it's yours. And I said, it is. You can allow people to piggyback on your credit, right? So if I have really good credit, I can let you piggyback on it. And what I do is I call the creditor and I say, hey, I want to add my cousin, John Smith. I don't know, I'm not a lawyer. This is not legal advice. This is not the law, but this is very common knowledge. People do it all the time. I've done this all the time. And so they say, hey, I want to add this person to my credit. And they say, great, I just need their basic information. And then what happens is that person gets added to your credit account. They don't have to get a credit card. You don't have to give them a credit card. The creditor starts to report on both of your credit. So it looks like the other person has a car note or a mortgage or a credit card that's being paid on time. And as long as you're doing it with a really responsible person, it's actually going to boost your credit up. So you and this person are now linked. And this means that using the card and missing payments, though, can also harm the other person's score. Just make sure you're doing this with a really responsible party, because if they start falling behind, it's going to look like you're falling behind. Next, you'll limit your hard inquiries. Now, be mindful of applying for new credit. Each hard inquiry can lower your score very slightly, or so I hear, 3 to 5 points per inquiry. So it's not a large amount, but usually when we're shopping for things, it can play a role. Now, when you're shopping for mortgages and car notes, you do have what I believe to be 30 days to shop as much as possible to get the best deal. And that's not going to count against you. This is very normal, and underwriters know that you're shopping for a car. This is totally fine. But if you're looking for credit cards, you might start to look a little desperate. So you want to be really mindful of how and when you're using your inquiries. How will you diversify your credit mix next? So if you only have credit cards, you want to consider adding a different type of credit, like an installment loan. If you're having trouble getting credit, it can help your credit, but it's sometimes difficult to get approved for a credit card when you have a really low score. So this is where secured credit cards become really useful, right? What is a secured credit card? Now, unlike a typical unsecured credit card where you're given a credit line based on your credit alone, you can open up a secured card by depositing money, which becomes your credit limit. So a lot of places like Navy Federal will do this, where you can do a secured credit card. You basically put in the money almost like a savings account, and then they give you a card. And you're like, yeah, I have a credit card. But it's a credit card because it reports to your credit. It helps you build credit. So that's how it works. If you deposit $500, you will then have a $500 line of credit. Banks are more likely to approve you for a secured credit card because it's really not that risky. Your payments on this card are reported to the credit bureaus, and if you make those payments on time, this can actually help you raise your credit score. Super hack, super easy. Gotta have a little bit of cash though. And there you have it. With these tips and strategies, you're well on your way to achieving that 800 credit score. Remember, it takes time and consistency, but the rewards are well worth it. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to join Her Money Mentor community. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. Drop a comment below if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover next. Stay financially empowered. Until next time, thanks for watching Her Money Mentor.